Now, you've played Jean Valjean and Javert, which are two of probably the best roles in the world in musical theatre, probably other than the Phantom. These are the biggest roles, really, for any men to perform, aren't they?
Well, I think so, yeah. Definitely for people with my sort of voice and dramatic ability. If you're a high baritone or a tenor, these are the roles you want to play.
Now, Cassie, your role, of course, is the kind of epitome to what he does, which is insecure and a little role, but a massive voice. Now, how do you do that? You're so little.
I don't know. I guess I have to thank my mother. She passed her voice down to me, and I'm kind of just working with it. You know, for as long as I can work with it. You know, she's a great role to play, and it, you know, on the surface, I think it looks quite simple. She loves a guy, he doesn't love her, but actually, she's quite a complex character. She had quite a tough upbringing, and she's feisty, and she's quite selfless, which, you know, are great emotions to play.
Now, we first got to know you on the X Factor. X Factor to West End Theatre is kind of okay, fine, but X Factor to Les Mis, you must have been the only one with any talent in the whole show.
Oh, I couldn't ever pass comment, could I? You know, I worked in musical theatre when I was a child, so it kind of wasn't that I decided to do a reality TV show and then I just decided I wanted to get in musical theatre. It was something that I'd known before, and the X Factor was an opportunity that I will never regret, and it worked really well for me, and now I'm here back to doing what I always wanted to do.
Can't see Gareth Gates playing Jean Valjean, can you?
I don't think so, no. But give him a few years, you never know, eh?
Tell me about the show every night, because it's a long show and it's a hard slog. I just love it. The music is probably the most moving of any musical that's ever been written.
Well, it's not that uplifting stuff that you have in Mamma Mia or We Will Rock You and stuff like that. But it does have a happy ending. We all go to heaven. Well, except for me, of course. It's perfect. It actually helps it a lot. So I was always hoping that some members in the cast I really hate, so I can really focus on that. It helps my character a lot.
Which ones in particularly would you like to name that you hate the most?
Well, that's why it's quite hard in this cast, because I do like most of them. So that's good, isn't it?
Who did you hate from X Factor?
I didn't hate anybody. I think people expected me to hate people like Simon Cowell, who eventually I ended up getting on incredibly well with, because I think it's such a strange, not that well, HB. It's a very strange experience, and I think I just didn't have enough time to dislike anybody. People that you just don't really speak to, and people that I don't speak to anymore. We're here to do a job, and in even the X Factor, I was there to do a job. So I try not to occupy my time with bothering with what other people do. It's quite hard not to when you see people day in, day out. But I think it's important for the sake of the show as well, and the company, to just try and just get on with it.
So who were you with?
I was with Sharon Osbourne. It was the year that Steve Brookstein won, so it was the first. We were kind of like a prototype, I guess.
Now, what happened to him then?
I don't know. He sent me a lovely text message the other day saying that we must catch up, and...
Well, he's got plenty of time on his hands, hasn't he?
That's not what he meant, is it?
I think he's working on stuff, and he's happy, and I think he's good.
Happy is good. Success is another thing, and this is my problem with X Factor. It is an entertainment show, and I think that's where it really should stop now. And the thing about showbiz, you can be famous for 1 year, but can you be famous the next year? And you can have one hit series, can you have two? I suppose with musical theatre, what it's about is churning it out every single night consistently.
No, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think the good thing about these shows is, and if you get even one person from 30,000 that is any good and that will go on to do something, then I think that's great. We all know it's a TV show, and I think you have to go into it knowing that. I thought Leona last year was great, and I think that she is talented, and therefore she will do well. And I guess if you find one person out of however many thousand, then that's good going. But ultimately, it's TV.
What do you make of these shows where they're putting Grease on and they're putting Joseph on? When you spent your entire life dedicated to the cause and you love musical theatre, you know it, you've trained it, and you've been doing it, yet they seem to jump the queue, don't they?
I wasn't born in that generation that knows reality TV, so for me it wasn't a question of doing that. But I think a lot of young kids now feel they have to do that to get any chance, which I don't think is true, because as a result from all these shows, I think there's so many famous people per square foot in London that what we're going to do with them all. So after a while, what you have, one person is famous for a year, and then they need somebody else, and they just dump him.
What about the repetition, Cassie? How do you deal with this fact that you're doing the same show in the same order, the same songs, the same words every night? How do you keep it fresh?
Well, I guess it is, the same songs and the same show, but it's different every night because, yes, you're still trying to portray the same character every night, but depending on how you feel or what you get from other actors and how you know, and how they're kind of, you know, expressing themselves. It's always different because you can't ever emulate exactly the same thing every night. And I don't think it would be honest if you went on and tried to emulate exactly the same thing. So I think it's just about going with it and staying true to the text and staying true to what you should be saying, and just saying it however, you know, it comes out on the night, I guess. That's just my way of looking at it.
There's no glamour about it. I think that's what people who do these other sort of shows should realise as well. It's not a glamorous life. You just have to work hard at it and take it how it comes. And even though backstage it might be a bit less or whatever, that doesn't really matter, because you just have to be doing a good job on stage.
Is theatre as good now, HP? You've been doing it a little while. Is it as good now as it was, say, 10 years ago? Are they coming up with the new stuff? I don't seem to see as many new musicals at all coming, let alone plays.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from Belgium, so we don't have that problem. But I do believe that, well, there's a lot of revivals of stuff, and I don't always like to see that. I like to see new things happen, really.
Why is it then that there aren't people creating great hits like Les Mis 21 years on?
Well, not everybody knows how to just create a hit. You never know that. But I'm sure it's a question of money as well. I mean, you need a lot of money if you want to invest in something that might not work. It's not easy.
Tell me about your lifestyle and how you get here every night to do the show, and especially on those 2 show days, which must be just awful. I see there isn't a steamer today. Normally I'm surrounded by this puffing of steam around me. You're not into that?
Who have you been seeing then?
All kinds of prima donnas, don't you?
I think you should only steam if something's wrong. If everything's fine, then you don't need anything. So I think everything's fine for the moment. Then.
Oh, good. Well, that's a relief. So what do you do daily then?
Lots and lots of water. And I can't stand water, so it's really painful, but I have to just drink loads of water and eat well. I think the night before a Wednesday matinee, I run home and get into bed as quickly as possible, and then get up as late as possible. But on most days you kind of get up, and I think you have to, energy creates energy, as my mum used to say. Oh, she's so right. And you just have to get up and go about your day and just make sure you're looking after yourself.
Frank Sinatra once said that his nightmare in the end was not sounding like Frank Sinatra. Are there days when you wake up and worry whether that big noise that you make, I've seen you in this show twice now, how do you come to terms with that? Is it going to be there tonight?
Well, you worry every day when you wake up. You wake up and the first thing you check, is it working? But that's just the reality of doing this sort of job, and you just have to get on with it. Of course, after all this time, I do know certain things I can do if it's not all right, and I can get it fixed and something like that. But it's what you wake up with.
Let's talk about the technical stuff, because as is the case with all these West End and Broadway shows now, they're so clever. There's so many things happening. This is probably one of the most pure and simple shows, but there's still a lot going on. When that goes wrong, I suppose that's what you're paid for, isn't it, as a West End and Broadway star? Not when it goes right, because that's easy.
Well, actually, there's something true about that, because I always feel that if something goes wrong on stage, if it would be the scenery or the people who make mistakes or whatever, I think then that's when you get a great adrenaline kick to try and sort it. You try and compensate by giving a different sort of energy to make it look like it's how it should be.
One of my favourite things is on telly when the news people stop the auto cue and then they don't know what to say, and I think, well, hang on, any idiot can read. Yeah. How are you with that now, being comfortable with the role? Do you know it inside out now?
I think I'm pretty sure I know it inside out now, but the thing about Les Mis is that when I'm on, as Eponine, she's kind of on and that's it, and I don't have a break until it gets to the interval, and then obviously on my own little fall of rain, it's the sort of show that if you forget your words or you pause, the show is continuing, at the speed of light, and so you've just got to be on top of it.
You're 20 years old and you're the star of one of the biggest shows in the world, and you're in the West End. Where do you go from here? Is there any bigger dream than this? Because really, you're in the best musical that's the longest running, therefore it must be the most successful. It makes a whole ton of money. People will always come and see it. There's no sign of it closing, so you're not going to be worried that every day it could close, like so many shows in the West End. Where do you go from here?
First and foremost, I just want to keep working, because I think to be successful in this business isn't about how much money you make or how famous you are. It's about if you can go to work every day and have a job to go to every day. Oh, there are so many things I'd love to do. I'd love to get into film and all those sorts of things. My dream role really would be to be an original in a new musical. To create a role, I think, for something I've never done, and that for me would be my ultimate dream at the moment. But just working. What
about things like dropping wind or things on stage? Do you do little tricks on each other to make each other laugh?
I have never done so ever in my entire career.
HP would never do anything like that. I've had it done to me. Yeah. Oh yeah, in this show, I'm naming no names. It was stinky.
It wasn't. Was it on stage?
It was on stage.
Yeah.
On stage, just before I had to sing on my own.
Everybody seems to keep coming to this. What do you think it is then that makes this show a success when so many are failing?
I think it's just what it makes a success for us is the same thing, is that you're addicted to being able to portray these emotional characters, and I think the people who come and see it can recognise themselves in those characters.
Listen, congratulations on everything, Cassie and HP. They're the two big stars here at Les Mis, which is on at the Queen's Theatre in the West End. It really is probably the grande dame of musical theatre at the moment. It's the one that remains, that it still churns it out every night. And I don't know how you do it on those two show days. I've seen matinees and late shows on a Wednesday and Saturday, and it still sounds the same. And it really is as good as ever. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.